Assalamu alaikum guys. So after a terrible head start today, uh, I tried to do one. I tried to do a 2 hour session, study session today afternoon, but I failed miserably as I quit midway because I was too tired and took a afternoon nap. And by nap, I don't mean a 10-minute or 20-minute nap. I mean a 1.5 hours of sleep, deep sleep. Anyway, so now we will continue the study for today. And the bad news is that, oh, sorry for, and the bad news is that today I forgot to bring my um, what the fuck? How do you say it? I forgot my books at school. I forgot to I brought I took my books to school, but forgot to bring them back at during coming back home. If that makes sense. Uh, so that's why I don't have a lot of books. For example, I don't have the Bangla book which I was supposed to study today, the physics book, the chemistry book. So I am kind of in a bum. Anyway, so I will be studying six subjects today, each with actually no, I will be studying three subjects today because I don't have the books, and each subject will get 1 hour of study time. And the first subject that we'll be studying is um, biology second paper, where we are studying hydra, but actually hydra, the structure of hydra is the second chapter, is in the second chapter. But the problem is that I had not finished the first chapter. Ma'am had already finished the first chapter, but I did not study this first chapter. So uh, I am kind of lagging behind. That's why I will need to first complete the first chapter, then go with the second chapter. And by the way, ma'am took one test few days ago on the first chapter, and I got 25. Sorry, what the hell? I got 8 out of 25. 8 out of 25. That's like 8 to the 24, 30% mark, barely passing mark. So I will need to study biology second paper a lot. Uh, but the problem is our teacher is going at a faster pace than we are able to keep up. So that's why, you know what it is. So I won't be wasting much time. I will go right into it. We complete from pick with the Parvi who is just. Anyways, so another thing anyways, so I had also seen that my views count has slightly decreased today. Yeah, the afternoon stream that I did, the study with me session, it got only 4 views in 1.5 hours, which is really sad. Anyways, And one thing I found out is that if I keep uh, the OBS Studio screen open up, then I am constantly looking at the concurrent views, the number of views, and this really what um, uh, this really distracts me from my study. So what I will be doing is I will be minimizing the OBS Studio, so I will have no idea if people are even commenting or what, and I will open up some study material on the I can't even make a clear thought today. My whole thought process is jammed today for some reason. I will reset the timer because why not? Hmm, hmm, hmm. Guys, do you have any like good songs for background play, like instrumental songs without any lyrics? লাকি আছে তোর কাছে? Any genre will work. What type? Like good type? uh, well, let me show you one sample. Like Me and the Devil, there is one song. There is instrumental, but I want more of this because if I voila. What am I doing? I was supposed to study. Why am I searching for songs?
that contains most of the internal organs. 2. They also have a big muscular foot, which takes different forms in each class of mollusk. 3. They have a mantle, which in some mollusks makes a shell and in others just covers the visceral mass. And 4. Finally, all mollusks, except bivalves, have a radula, or a rasping organ on their mouth that allows them to scrape up food. So chitons are these headless marine animals covered with a plated shell on one side, and they use their foot to move around on rocks, scraping off algae with their radula. You know about bivalves. They have shells that are divided into two hinged halves like clams and scallops. They're filter feeders, so they trap particles of food in the mucus that covers their gills. Snails and slugs are the gastropods. One thing that sets them apart is a process called torsion, in which the visceral mass twists to the side during embryonic development, so that by the end of it, its anus is basically right above its head. Most gastropods also have a single spiraled shell, and most mass twists to the side. Sets them apart is a process called torsion, in which the visceral mass twists to the side during embryonic development, so that by the end of it, its anus is basically right above its head. Most gastropods also have a single spiraled shell, and most use their radula to graze on algae and plants. And last, but certainly not least, we have the cephalopods, which are the kings of the mollusks as far as I'm concerned. Cephalopods include octopi and squid, and they are obviously a lot different from other mollusks. For starters, they have tentacles that they use to grab their prey, which they then bite with their beaks and immobilize with poisonous saliva. And the foot of a cephalopod has been modified into a really powerful muscle that shoots out water to help it move and steer through the water. But probably the coolest thing about cephalopods is how smart they are. While a typical mollusk might have 20,000 neurons, an octopus has 500 million. If you just do a YouTube search for octopus, you'll find all kinds of videos of them opening jars and stealing people's video cameras. They're like freaking ocean ninjas. Cephalopods got skills. So remember, simple doesn't equal dumb. There is a lot to learn from our less developed cousins. Next time we'll talk about even more complex animals and what we have to learn from them. Until then, thank you for watching Crash Course Biology. If you want to review anything that we discussed in this video, we've put a table of contents over on one of my sides. I can never remember which one it is. I think it's that side. Yeah, that side.
In many ways, the octopus is as close to alien life as we may ever see. Few creatures in the world are as remarkable and bizarre. A part of a class of animals called cephalopods, they are among the most intelligent and most mobile of all the invertebrates. They live in every ocean in the world, in the deep sea, in kelp forests, in coral reefs, along rocky shorelines. And they are as diverse as the habitats they live in. They can be massive or absolutely tiny. Some species are venomous, and some are just downright strange. In any given moment, they can appear spiky, or they can appear smooth. They are so different from us that most of their 500 million neurons are not in their brain, but in their arms, which can smell and taste, and even think. And so intelligent that their cognitive ability matches that of many large-brained vertebrates. They have left scientists stunned about how a creature so far from us on the evolutionary tree could evolve such complex behaviors, their intelligence emerging in the evolutionary tree. Could evolve such complex behaviors, their intelligence emerging in an entirely novel and independent way from our own. So how did the octopus become so biologically complicated? An island of complexity in the sea of invertebrate animals. Just how intelligent are they? And how can studying them reveal information about our own minds? Cephalopods have been around for a long time. Fossil records show that they evolved over 500 million years ago, long before any fish, reptiles, or mammals ever appeared on Earth. The early ancestor of the octopus was quite small and had a shell, which it used to protect itself as it crawled along the ocean bottom. Cephalopods are, after all, members of the mollusk phylum, a group of creatures that are usually slow and simple, with soft bodies and a hard protective shell, like snails, clams, and oysters. But around 140 million years ago, The lineage that produced the octopus lost their shells, making them nimble, agile creatures, but in the process also made them rather vulnerable. Survival of these soft-bodied creatures for so many millions of years therefore seems unlikely in a sea full of dangerous, hungry predators. But this vulnerability and selective pressure may be precisely what has allowed the octopus to become the remarkable creature we know today. Because an octopus has almost no hard parts at all, except its beak, it can squeeze through any hole as long as it's larger than its eyeball. This allows the octopus to hide in very small crevices, a certain evolutionary advantage when escaping large predators like sharks or dolphins. But the soft-bodied octopus evolved an even more clever way of evading detection. They are masters of disguise. Watching this clip of an octopus, you can see just how quickly and drastically it can change colors. In slow-motion reverse, you see the color change spread across its body. The 3D texture of the skin also changes to match the surrounding seaweed and coral. In the blink of an eye, it has almost completely blended in with its surroundings. Cephalopod camouflage is among the most dynamic in the animal kingdom and relies on a system of extremely sophisticated tissues. Chromatophores are organs that are speckled across the skin of the octopus, like freckles. They contain tiny pigment-filled sacs, like little balloons full of different colored dye, which can be black, red, or yellow. The pigment sacs are surrounded by radial muscles, which can stretch the sac to reveal the pigment's color. Just like balloons full of dye, when stretched, their pigment color appears bright and vibrant. Depending on which sets of sacs an octopus opens or closes, it can produce patterns such as bands, stripes, or spots, helping to turn itself into a rock, a coral, or a kelp in an instant. But if the octopus needs to produce colors outside of black, red, and yellow, it uses another layer of reflective structures in their skin called iridophores. They are stacks of very thin cells that lay beneath the chromatophores. They contain a protein called reflectin that bounces certain wavelengths of light back out. They are responsible for the metallic blues and greens that appear to shimmer on the skin of the octopus. Beneath that layer is yet another layer of reflective tissue called lucifores. These reflect ambient light, usually producing white hues. By combining reflection from the iridophores and lucifores with the correct patterning of the chromatophores, the octopus can create a very convincing copy of its surroundings. But the octopus has one more trick up its sleeve, allowing it to disappear in plain sight almost completely. Using a structure called papillae, it can change the texture of its skin, creating ridges and bumps that rise and fall. This helps the octopus match its surroundings even better. With all these tools, the shell-free, soft-bodied octopus has been able to deceive an ocean full of predators for millions of years. But their survival has not hinged on these camouflage properties alone. It's the way they're controlled that is perhaps an even more compelling survival tool. When an octopus travels along the sea floor, they have to assess the background and modify their camouflage constantly. They are making decisions at a rapid pace. One researcher observed an octopus changing its camouflage 177 times in 1 hour. Octopus's camouflage reaction times are faster than any other animal's, up to 200 milliseconds, as fast as the fastest blink you can do. But despite doing so much with color, the octopus and almost all cephalopods are surprisingly thought to be colorblind. How can they match colors they can't even see? In 2015, the answer to this question started to be uncovered. Researchers found that the skin of an octopus is sensitive to light due to photoreceptor genes active in the skin. Even when the skin was detached from the body, it could respond to light and change the shape of its chromatophores. Scientists realized that an octopus can see with not just its eyes, but also its skin. But as the octopus body was evolving its color-changing defense mechanisms when it lost its shell 140 million years ago, another transformation occurred: the development of its large brain and nervous system. The photoreceptor genes in the skin work in connection with the octopus's large and complex brain. The octopus can change colors so fast because the octopus controls its chromatophores neurally. Other animals that can change color, like chameleons for example, take much longer because their color change is hormonally controlled. Hormones take time to get into the blood and distribute around the body. A color change can take over 20 seconds when controlled this way. Some researchers believe that color change in the octopus may be like breathing or blinking for us, something it can choose to do, but also something that can happen involuntarily. It can have awareness. A color change can take over 20 seconds when controlled this way. Some researchers believe that color change in the octopus may be like breathing or blinking for us, something it can choose to do, but also something that can happen involuntarily. It can have awareness from its eyes and brain, but also throughout its body. The octopus nervous system is large like ours, but built with a different relationship between body and brain altogether. The common octopus has around 500 million neurons in its body. For comparison, humans have about 100 billion. Most invertebrates usually have much less. Snails have only 20,000. But cephalopods like the octopus score in the same range as many vertebrates, like cats, dogs, and parrots, more than any other invertebrate. And of their 500 million neurons, only a third are found in their brain. The majority are found in their 8 arms. And as strange as it sounds, this allows the octopus to, in a way, think with its arms. For a long time, scientists have known that a severed octopus arm can respond to stimuli an hour after being separated from the central brain. But a paper last year began to reveal the extent of this autonomy. Using video modeling, they observed the octopus as it explored objects in its tank and looked for food. The program quantified movements of the arms, tracking how the arms work together in synchrony, suggesting direction from the brain, or asynchronously, suggesting independent decision-making in each appendage. And they found that in the flow of information from the environment to the octopus, some information bypasses the central brain entirely. The suckers and arms can, in a way, think for themselves, allowing the octopus to analyze its environment extremely quickly and react with matching speed. Along with skin that can perceive and change color on its own, the relationship between brain and body in the octopus is full of blurred lines. And on top of this unusual neural layout and strange body autonomy, cephalopods are smart, extremely smart. And this is really what gives the octopus its alien-like status. They are so far from any other intelligent life on the tree of evolution, but still compete with vertebrates in their raw cognitive ability. Evolution invented intelligent life not once, but twice, in 2 completely different ways. In the evolutionary tree of life, we sit upon the branch of mammals. Nearby are the fish, reptiles, birds, and amphibians, the other members of the larger classification of vertebrates. This group is where we see all of the intelligent life we normally think of: humans, primates, dogs, cats, dolphins, and some birds. When we collect these animals and trace back to our common ancestor, it was likely a lizard-like animal that lived around 320 million years ago. Like us, this animal would have had a backbone, 4 limbs, a head, and a skeleton. It would have walked around, well adapted to land, and had a well-developed central nervous system. But to find where we split from the octopus, we have to travel much further down the branches, to around 600 million years ago. The creature we find there is a simple, flat worm. It had an extremely basic nervous system, and no inklings of what we would consider intelligence. As the evolutionary tree branched and diverged, intelligence blossomed on our branch of vertebrates, and totally separately in the cephalopods. And with the cephalopods evolving before any of the intelligent vertebrates, it's likely that they were the first intelligent animals that appeared on Earth. But what actually is intelligence? How can we identify or even measure such a thing in an animal so different from us? In humans, intelligence is commonly defined as the ability to think abstractly, understand, communicate, problem-solve, learn, form memories, and plan actions. This is usually measured by intelligence tests which can be given a numerical value. But we can't give a standardized test to an octopus. We can only observe their behaviors.
Why the cephalopods? Well, they're the most interesting mollusks in terms of behavior, no question.
To learn more about the depth of octopus intelligence as researchers currently understand it, I spoke with Jennifer Mather, professor in the Department of Psychology at University of Lethbridge and scientific advisor for the film My Octopus Teacher.
Pretty well every learning task you give them, they can do. Short-term, long-term, spatial memory, object perception, But it's more than learning. They also go in for planning. And planning is not so obvious. And one of the famous examples is what's been called the coconut carrying octopus. So the octopus is going off to a place where there's no shelter, and it takes these coconut halves with them. And when it wants to stop and rest, it picks them up and brings them up and goes like this around it. It's amazing.
Some scientists argue that this behavior is a rare example of composite tool use, a behavior previously thought to only exist in humans, some primates, and some birds. And it may be evidence of complex intelligence for two reasons. First, this tool use might represent a behavioral innovation, allowing octopuses to protect themselves in areas where they can't otherwise hide. Second, because the coconut shells are transported with great effort to meet future needs, this behavior might indicate an octopus's planning ability. The octopus has to imagine the future and connect the dots between past events, current actions, and future events, which is not a simple task. Octopuses also do
Guys, the thing is today the YouTube algorithm is playing games on me, and I only got 18 views in 14 hours, which normally I get around 60 to 70 views by this time. But anyways, moving forward, what I see is that I am learning more from YouTube videos than my actual textbook, which is not a good thing. Which is actually not a good thing at all. I need to focus more on my textbooks, but heck, I like and my anyways biology to Python. By the way, this is just I will also spend another 1 hour behind this subject, because I am completely lost in bio 2, which is not a good thing at all.
well in memory tests and can differentiate between different people even when they're wearing the same outfit. And in a study done by Professor Mather, the common octopus has also been shown to be extremely playful.
I would describe them as extremely exploratory, sort of like a 5-year-old kid, taking stuff apart, going off and feeling around at the landscape, just grabbing more information.
Play is often defined as a behavior that is not necessary for survival, done on purpose, but
Landscape, just grabbing more information.
play is
Sort of like a 5-year-old kid, taking stuff apart, going off and feeling around at the landscape, just grabbing more information.
Play is often defined as a behavior that is not necessary for survival, done on purpose, but seemingly for pleasure. The action is often repeated, exaggerated, and carried out when the animal is adequately fed, healthy, and not under stress.
We figured that the animals were more likely to play if they were safe and bored. So we set up octopuses in an aquarium with a place to hide and nothing else. And then we got a pill bottle and put enough water in it that it floated at the surface.
Also in the mix was a water intake pump for the aquarium that the researchers hadn't necessarily intended to be part of the experiment. It created a current that pushed the pill bottle across the top of the tank, which sparked the curiosity of some of the octopuses.
So we did this with 6 animals, okay? In 2 cases, the pill bottle came across like this. The octopus shot a jet of water at it, which meant that it went back towards the water intake and it came back again.
If an octopus did this once, or even twice, it wouldn't be experimentally significant. But a few carried out this behavior so many times that it couldn't be ignored.
One of them did this, I think it was 14 times, and one of them did it 21 times. It was the marine equivalent of bouncing the ball.
In addition to helping establish motor coordination, play in most species is largely needed for social purposes, for establishing rank, for learning social rules, or for social bonding. And due to its complexity, play is considered to be almost exclusive to mammals, with a few exceptions in other vertebrates like some birds. But the octopus is a solitary creature. It has no social bonds, no social hierarchy. It makes us rethink the evolutionary reasons for play. In fact, much of our idea of intelligence is based on the idea that it evolved out of a social need. For decades, scientists have wondered about the origins of intelligence and have tried to understand why certain animals evolved intelligence and others did not. The social intelligence hypothesis is the often favored hypothesis for the evolution of complex cognition. It's the idea that intelligence evolved due to the demands of group living, such as maintaining complex and enduring social bonds, deception, cooperation, or social learning. When most of the animals we think of as smart, humans, primates, dogs, dolphins, began living in groups, there became a need for more complex behaviors and therefore a bigger, more complex brain. But this theory can't explain why intelligence evolved in cephalopods. A different theory must exist for these non-social creatures.
You see, our big problem with knowing the development of intelligence is that we know it from the mammals, from the primates, our relatives. So we know that this particular set of conditions sets us up for being intelligent. But then if we have another model, the octopus, then we have to say, okay, these conditions, being part of a social group, they're not necessary for intelligence.
Perhaps the pressures of finding food and evading predation is enough for intelligence to blossom. This is the basis for the ecological intelligence hypothesis, which suggests that complex cognition evolved to meet the challenges associated with predation, foraging, and competitive pressures. And when the octopus lost its shell 140 million years ago, perhaps the pressure of predation was so high that outsmarting their attackers became the only way for it to survive. These two theories are not competing ones, but rather two explanations for two instances of intelligence on the tree of life. The octopus gives us a rare chance to investigate an alternate intelligence, an alien-like life form here on Earth. Where we once thought there was only one model for intelligence, we now know there are at least two, and who's to say how many more there could be, on this Earth or elsewhere. But despite the distance from us on the evolutionary tree, the octopus still lives inside the same grand experiment as we do. The Earth, the oceans, and the spinning wheels of evolution have crafted us both. They are not so much alien then, as much as a distant relative. And by stepping aside from our human-centric view of intelligence, can we start to clearly see the infinite possibilities of cognition. The story of the modern octopus began so long ago, back when there was no life yet on land. But around this time, 500 million years ago, the oceans had begun to explode with life. This period, called the Ordovician, was known for its amazing diversity of invertebrates. And of these invertebrates, the massive armored cephalopods were king. They dominated the seas for roughly 360 million years. The fossil records show an amazing array of creatures during this time. Some we recognize and some we definitely don't. Life was thriving until something stopped nearly all of it in its tracks. To learn more about this period on the early Earth and understand what nearly wiped out all of the animals in the planet's first mass extinction, you should watch Ancient Oceans on CuriosityStream. It's a 2-part series that covers the Ordovician and
Guys, I don't feel like I don't feel that motivated and that willing to continue this live stream because I'm feeling kind of bored, and also I got only 20 views in almost 1.5 hours, which really sucks. So I will be calling off the live stream and the studying in general, because today I don't feel like I have the mental capacity, the mental how do I say it? I don't feel like studying. That's it. So thank you for joining. Allah Hafiz.